Welcome everybody. Jeepers. Welcome everybody. Yeah, I'll put this over here. I'm gonna need a. So yeah, welcome. So this panel really is about, as Steve said, about influencers, and we've got three very interesting speakers. And if I can ask the speakers, please, to come to the floor. And basically, they represent, I think, some of the biggest companies in Holland, some of the smallest, and then somebody who's sort of got a role to play in Dutch society. Please take a seat, guys, for now. But what I want to do is, with this panel, is not to make it a traditional panel. I'd like to make an offer to you all, is that you, rather than have these panels, you know, where it's monopolised by the speaker, and you don't ask any questions, I'd like to give you the chance to ask all the questions that you want to really ask. So I've spoken to each of you before. You happy to answer any question? Yeah? So this is your opportunity to ask any question you want, okay? Secondly is to participate. So if we might ask a few votes on your views on things. So will you also willing to participate that way? Yes, thank you, good. So what we're going to do is, can you come over here, please, and meet some of your colleagues so we can all be in one general area? And as you do it, can you greet them in a traditional Dutch way? And go and sit next to somebody you really want to sit next to. Please, hurry up. Actually, I might sit here if that's okay. Yeah. Go. Nearly there. Please, room at the front. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, so suggestion is what we'll do is we're going to start first of all and give each panelist 2 minutes to bring to life their story. So I'm here to learn as well, yeah? So I thought that this company was the biggest flag carrier, that this company was electric taxis full of people over 50 years old. There's more to it. And also I thought you were an incubator. Yeah, so could you just bring to life in 2 minutes each what your company is?
Do you have a microphone?
Yeah, we'll just do a cross.
Okay, my name is Sigrid Johanisse. I'm director of Startup Delta. Startup Delta is an initiative I run together with Nelly Kroes, former vice president of the European Commission for the Digital Agenda. What we do, or what we've done over the last 1.5 years, is put the Netherlands on the global map as a very attractive startup ecosystem. We've done that by, first of all, with our strategy linking up. So we're linking up all the Dutch hubs from Amsterdam to Eindhoven to you name it together. That they work together, share technology, share agendas, share their contacts. We also link them up with the main hubs, also via Nelly's contacts anywhere in the world, from San Francisco to Tel Aviv. The second part is changing the system. As we all know, the system was never made for startups. If you look at regulation, fiscal incentives, how corporates work together with startups. So on that level, we're trying to make the change with all the different stakeholders, from the corporates to universities, regulation. And the third one is creating impact. So together with these stakeholders, we make them responsible so they create the change themselves. The effect we've had in 1.5 years is we're now out of nothing number 4 on the European ecosystem map and number 19 globally. We're so popular, apparently, that people want us to continue. Nelly and I won't continue, but Constantijn van Oranje has announced last week that he'll take over from us. And his goal is by 2020 that the Netherlands will be number 5 on the global map.
Okay, thank you, Sigrid.
Thank you. So my name is Tjalling Smit. I am VP for Digital at Air France and KLM. That means I oversee our website, our apps and our social media activities. And within the Netherlands, KLM is quite well known, and Air France is well known in France. But outside our home countries, we need to really make a big effort to make people understand our brands. In fact, when I do a presentation, I usually show a slide that is a picture of a sewer stop, a putdeksel, in Kuala Lumpur. It says KLM, Kuala Lumpur Municipality. And that is the way that people look at our brand. They have no idea. When we do advertising abroad, we show little airplanes in our advertising just to make people familiar with the fact that we're an airline. So we have found that digital is a main way for us to deliver our brand, and also it's a very strong way for us to enhance our customer service. We are passionate about customer intimacy, and we believe that that's quite difficult with 80 million customers and 100,000 employees. But digital allows us to be intimate with that customer again, and that's why we use it a lot. So we try to learn from what's happening abroad. We think that, or outside, I should say. We think that we should be where our customers are. If our customers choose to live digitally, at least on Facebook Messenger, then that is where we will bring our services. If they choose to live in another digital place, then we will be there. And well, we try to learn from the outside world, and a group like this is definitely the outside world. So I'm interested in hearing your ideas.
Thanks, Tjalling.
Ruud Zandvliet, I'm one of the founders of Taxi Electric. We are a social enterprise, started 4 years ago as the first 100% electric taxi service in Europe. Right now we are with about 100 people, mostly drivers. We try to recruit our drivers actively amongst people older than 50 years, because it's a group of people that has a very hard time finding a job in the Netherlands. This is basically what we do. I think what's more important is why we do it. We believe in two things, and one is that we can do everything in a sustainable manner, and the second is that everyone can contribute to that world, and everyone has value. We have a payoff that says change the system. Basically what we do is we do what we think is good, and often our economy, our system doesn't value it. So we say, fuck the system, we're gonna make it work. And the funny thing is that if you do it like that, you don't have to do marketing, and you get really motivated people that work here at you, because everyone is really proud in what they're doing. Basically that's our story.
Okay, thank you, brilliant. So I think we'll start over here if we can. So what you said was really good, but you know, I'm an Englishman, yeah? I can only think of Adyen and Booking.com have been Dutch companies over $1 billion. So why aren't there more big Dutch success stories to be talked about? And what's holding these companies back?
I think that's a very valid point you're touching. That's the thing Nelly and I discovered 1.5 years ago. We had traveled the whole of Europe for Startup Europe. And we discovered that nowhere the Netherlands was on the map, nor our companies. And then we said to each other, and more speaking your language, the marketing of the Netherlands is really bad. Because this country has about everything. We have the talent, the technology. This is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. There is huge funds are available, 1,700 billion on pension fund investments. And we could go on and on. If we talk about companies, it's indeed Adyen, Elastic. Katawiki is the fastest growing company in Europe, I believe, even in the world, if we look at their figures. HackerOne, you name it there, I think we can mention about 20 to 30 very fast growing companies. If it's about unicorns, depending on where you start, but I think we could mention 4, including life science companies like Acerta and Decima Pharma. So we're doing very well, and I think the momentum in the Netherlands, but also in Europe, is changing. We should be far more confident of what we're doing. We all know that the validation of companies in the US is way too high, and they realize that themselves. So they are looking at Europe at possibilities we're doing here. If we think of what you're doing with, let's say, sustainable taxi driving, that could be a huge market in the US as well. I think we should sell each other, ourselves better, have a very good profile. I think, and that's what Nelly always says, we're too modest, but we should be out there, and that's our starting point.
Okay, thanks. So Ruud, can you be honest with us? How easy is it to grow your business here in Holland? What are the biggest barriers or frustrations?
Well, we are here. We're quite successful, so I think that Amsterdam is a good place to start. I think it's interesting when you look at the role of the government. There are 2 parts of it. For us, it was really helpful that Amsterdam had an agenda for electric mobility, that they invested in charging infrastructure, for example. And I think what we learned from it, if you want as a government that something happens, if you want sustainable mobility, invest in the infrastructure. If you want internet companies, invest in the infrastructure. These are really expensive things. These are things that the startup cannot afford himself. And all the startups that want to do something with it will go to this place where it is. On the other hand, we are still in the Netherlands. Government is the largest contractor of taxi services, about 80%. Lots of elderly people are transported by taxis. And up till now, 4 years after we started, the government still accounts for only 0.1% of our customers. We drive for ABN AMRO, ING, PwC, all these blue chip companies. Also KLM is a big client of us. But yet we are not good enough to work for the government.
So why is that?
Because they are really risk averse, we notice. So they are really hesitant to take a risk, to try something new. They basically, we said when we came, we tried to sell, of course, our product to the government. And we are doing what you have policies for. Better clean air in the city, more electric vehicles. We promote that actively. We hire people that are in social welfare. Yet they say, well, but if we choose you, that would be choosing you instead of someone else. That's not honest. We just book with Taxi Centrale Amsterdam with the incumbent because that's fair. It's really strange.
What about Uber? What's their attitude to Uber?
I think Uber is a very interesting company to see. They do, of course, great marketing. But it's totally different from what we do. We see Uber as, of course, an innovative app, but they're also the biggest free rider of the system. They don't have anything themselves, only the app. The driver has to pay for everything. For example, something that's difficult for us as a startup. We almost went bankrupt because the government was really late with VAT payments. So at one stage in the starting of the company, the government was a debtor at our firm for 100,000 euros. We still had to receive a lot of VAT back because we bought a lot of cars. For Uber, for example, they had Uber Pop. They don't pay VAT. They are based in Amsterdam to not pay corporate tax. A lot of Uber drivers are, in Holland we call that schijnzelfstandigen. And yet our authorities do not try to do anything about it. Last year I spent more one last thing I want to say is last year I spent more on obeying the rules and investing in everything the government says you have to do than Uber paid in fines for not keeping themselves to the rules.
This can't be right. Come on, let's just. What's your view? Oh, you've got good. Perfect. No, I'll come to you a sec. Oh, we're good. We're all good. Right, now we can get going.
Makes the discussion easier.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm not here to defend Uber. You're trying to get me into that role, but I think the main thing is, first of all, make competition possible. So if you're an interesting and a good competitor, the government, local or national, should give you the space to compete. Yeah, and we should, I think, that's also a question for me to you. How can we, because that's my role from Startup Delta, how could we help you to make, to develop your business model? If we look at Uber Pop does no longer exist in the Netherlands. So that has been abolished a few months ago. And I think the government decided that it couldn't be, that it wasn't a viable, what do you call it, business model in the Netherlands, so they ended it.
No,
really?
No, that's not true.
Well,
Uber decided because to stop it, but
Savage marketing. If you want to have your own opinions on Twitter, guys.
Okay. So
those things go in close dialogue with both parties. So it's maybe a bit different from what you perceive, but you could ask the Minister of Economic Affairs how it really happened.
But that's a good point. As
Yeah?
a startup,
Yeah.
I don't have the discussion with the regulator if I should stop doing something that's not possible. If I would do it, I would get a fine. I would be out of business because I cannot pay for the fine. So this is already that there is no level playing field.
but I think this your point is, I think your role
Yeah.
is to actually help create the level field and help these companies
Exactly.
do that. That's what you're trying to say,
Yes,
isn't it?
so if you have an issue, we're here from Startup Delta to help you. Yeah, so next week we've got a whole meeting with the VNG of all the Dutch gemeenten to discuss exactly these issues.
Okay. So can we make a suggestion? Is anyone in the audience got a view on what's the delta could be? What are the most difficult issues that are holding you back? Anyone got a view they want to share? A question? Yeah.
What I hear is two things. The Dutch ecosystem is not as good as Silicon Valley when it comes to funding and raising capital. That's one thing you hear. So it's more difficult to get funds. So I don't know. This is what we hear, what we read. I don't know if it's true. Maybe you could elaborate on that. And the second thing is that, and that's what I heard from Eindhoven, but there's a lot of startups there, that foreign companies come there, and as soon as there's a good idea and it tends to grow, they buy it, and it's out of the country. So all the the benefits from the growth are exported. That's the two things we hear. Could you share your view on that?
That's a very important topic. Let's say our agenda is based on 3 pillars: capital, network, and talent. And from capital, we analyze that there's a lot of money available in the Netherlands, and if it's for startups, the problem is very early stage. That's quite difficult to find money where the risk is extremely high, or if you want to grow. So anything from 5 million to 10 million or higher is difficult. So together with the Ministry of Finance of Economic Affairs, last week Minister Kamp put extra money in a seed capital and pre-seed fund to help that. And we're working with the pension funds, with both the ministries on a possible growth fund for what we call the bigger tickets to solve that. And our ideal picture would be that in the Netherlands you have such a big fund, because you attract founders from all over Europe into the Netherlands. They could grow here, but they would also stay in Europe. So you can do that together with the European Commission, who also signaled what you exactly are mentioning. At the same time, Kees Kolen last week announced his big fund. Atomico has a fund of 700 million. So really the landscape is changing, but it's still an issue what you mentioned. Yes.
Okay, very good. So we've got funding, regulation, other rules, and around that seem to be more for the big companies.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. What about you, Charlie? You're one of the company's flag carrier. How are you? What's the role you guys play in Holland, and how do you connect more with these startups? I think is there a role that you can play?
Well, I think we differ a bit, saying in believing that the government is there to protect the big companies. We would like a lot more protection from the government than we actually get today, but that's a whole different. That's a whole different discussion. Let's not get into that.
No, let's do.
No, it's about the Middle East carriers.
Okay.
I won't bore you with that. That's too much airline talk.
Okay.
No, I think we try lots of new technologies. As you know, probably the airline industry is really a cutthroat business. Nobody's making a margin. So we try to come up with things that stops the commoditization of our industry, that sets us apart from our competitors. In KLM, we try to focus on customer intimacy, and as I said, we believe that great customer intimacy is enabled by digital solutions. So we look all around us for digital solutions. We've just launched a robot at Schiphol Airport, at Amsterdam Airport, that helps passengers, that guides passengers from their arriving gate to their departure gate. Not to replace humans. It's not about more efficiency. It's about adding value for the customer. And these are the kind of things that we really into, and that we partner up with startups for.
Yeah. Do you partner up with some of these disruptive global companies too? How easy are they to work with?
Well, yes, we do. So we partner up with the likes of Facebook and Google. We've just launched a few months ago, I should say, the ability to get your documents in the Facebook Messenger app rather than having to go to our own app or to our own website. We believe that we should be where our customer chooses to live in the digital space, and if that's Facebook Messenger, then that's where we facilitate. We find that they are quite easy to work with. They believe that, and I think we're in a happy place there. They believe that we are an innovative company, so they eagerly work with us like we do with them, and they actually approach us to develop new features together. So I think it really pays for us to be an innovator, to be on the forefront of digital development, because nowadays these big ones come to us, Uber, but also Facebook and Google.
And just a question for the audience. I'd like to do a vote. How many of you see KLM as a happy, innovative company? And how many of you see it's not one of those companies? So who sees KLM as a happy, innovative company? Hands up.
Wow.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. And who sees it as not? Okay, very good. That's very good, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really honored. And I think the naysayers have a point as well.
Yes.
Because we are a very traditional airline, and innovation only goes that far, because obviously we everything is safety first. So there's very limited things you can do about innovating the actual process of getting you from A to B. But everything around that, we try to be as innovative as possible. So thank you for your feedback.
Yes. So why are you changing your CEO if you're getting this reaction?
Well, it's the CEO of the group, so Air France and KLM. It was a board decision. Let me leave it.
Okay, right. Okay. So, so the other thing that's interesting is we were doing some basically a tour for the BBC, and we spent some time 2 weeks ago in Thailand, and we were amazed in Thailand because if you compare Thailand with America, you know there are 4% of women as CEOs in America, and in Thailand, guess how much it is? 40. Roughly 40% of CEOs are women, and the women are very much dominant in that country, both, and their role is to be a leader at work and at home. But what's the situation in Holland? What percentage of women are CEOs, and how much are women at the top in Dutch business? Does anyone know? What's the gut feel? So can we just, does anyone know the answer? Oh, yes, sir. 12%, so a bit higher, yeah? Okay. So why is it, you know, we've got some countries in the world now going a lot higher. We've got one woman on this panel, which is good. The other lady didn't show up, but that's okay. So she's too busy. So why aren't there more women at the top in Holland? And what's your view on this?
When I speak for KLM, we do have a lot of women, and not per se at the top. I think it has something to do with the origin, the background of the company, which is really an engineering, operational background that, as you see in education as well, simply attracts fewer women. Hence, less women make it all the way to the top.
But isn't it now in today's world? You know, you're taking families all around Europe. You need to be more customer intimacy.
Yeah.
Don't women have more EQ than men?
Absolutely. So we are very passionate about bringing more women into the company. My team has a favorable balance in the team in terms of male versus female. But I think the overall background of specifically KLM is one of the reasons for that.
Good.
I think it also has to do a lot with timing. I mean, for a board level function, people that do those functions are often 50s, 60s. So take a while to get there. We are recruiting now an operational manager and a marketing manager, and we see like men-female ratio is 50-50 in the applications, and I think will be maybe even 2 females that we are hiring. So I think the future looks really bright if you look what is coming up now, and it's also, so we have to also be a bit patient. You cannot get there overnight, of course.
Okay. So any views? Any views?
Can I say something about it as well?
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely true. I think it is changing, but way too slow. Years ago, I was manager high-tech systems. My whole team consisted of men, and it was very difficult to hire women. And people even thought I had something against women, because over the years, no other women came into my team. And I really tried. So I understand one side of the story. The other side is, I think, also for women themselves. The Netherlands is a part-time culture. That doesn't help if you want to go into top managerial positions, because that is full-time and more. But last week we had the Inspiring 50, so that's about 50 leading tech women from Europe in Amsterdam and The Hague. We discussed with them the different cultures they came from, and then I mean the cultures in the company. So from Xerox to just, well, nearly anything, Siemens. And there you see, when the top is supporting diversity, so not only women, but also black people, all sorts of things, different ages, that from top down, and it's part of the culture, it's part of the hiring, then you create the change. It really doesn't happen from themselves. And the fourth thing is, it's so subconscious. We all do it without realizing it. It starts when you're a child, how your parents support you to go this way or that way. And we had a fantastic presentation from someone on Facebook who said it's even in the classroom or where you have your job interview. If you have a job interview as a woman surrounded by race cars, you feel less comfortable than when it's closer to you. So it's in so many ways it plays a role. It is changing, but way too slow.
Okay. And is there a couple of views from other people on the floor?
I think there are some more things, because I think you've already, pointed out the point that emotions and those kind of things are like taboo in a way. I think a lot of men are scared to actually let emotions in besides the rational part of being in a board. And I think a lot of board members are like very much focused on the accounting part of the company, keeping the things stable and so on. But I think we see that we need more maybe idealism in the boards as well if we want to change maybe the world and be future-proof.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to have a better balance, but I think most boards are now focused on the old boys network and focused on mini-me's to keep it stable. And I think that's a change which we have to make, but which is very hard for, well, mostly rational people at the moment to actually see it and maybe to also feel it, that there has to be change.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I'll just get one more. Yes, sir? Please speak up loud.
Yeah, I have a question. In Germany, for example, we have a quota, 40%. We discussed it, the government discussed it like 2 years ago, I think. What is your view on this, like having on board level a quota of women, for example, 40%?
Okay. So we'll come on to that. So the latest point, I think, is that, and I see this globally, that there's too many sort of dominated white male 55-year-old boardrooms that actually are risk averse, and they don't want to put a female CEO in and take that risk. But I think there's a second thing, and this came out last week, is we're running an event with a FTSE 30 company, and the feedback, the culture said that women are not treated in the same way as men. And basically, the guys just, it was like a silence, and this lady stood up, she said, it's absolutely right. I can't mention about my maternity leave, I can't show any weakness, and then all of a sudden, all the other women in the room said the same thing. And two of the guys said, we don't know anything about this. And they were saying, look, oh my God, he's got no idea. But actually, he was genuinely out of ignorance, So there's, and when we unpicked it, it wasn't deliberate discrimination. It was the nature of a company that was alpha in its approach. You couldn't show any weakness. You didn't want to disclose things. So I think there's a sort of these cultures in Western companies that are still there. And I think they have a lot of the initiatives, but these initiatives, a lot of it are lip service, aren't they? So how do we, and what's you, do we have to, is one way quotas, or is there another way we can do this?
That you put too much value on the wrong values. I mean, we can say you have to get, I say 40% of the people in the board should be girls or women. What will we do with traditional guys, me 30 years old? I will hire a female that looks the most like me. Whereas what we want that the world becomes more that you suggested, that we place more value in the values that women traditionally value more than men.
Yeah.
And then we get the system right. So that is, I think, the real problem.
I think you make a good point. It's following your point about hiring mini-me's. I think many corporates tend to do that. They hire themselves.
It counts for men as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of how do you say that even realizing for people that they are hiring mini-me's is something that
one step.
is one big step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to change that behavior is even a bigger one. So I think people are coming onto this, that we need to change and that we need more diversity amongst which women. But indeed, for instance, our global audience is changing rapidly. The millennials are taking over. We only get 25% of our customers from our home market. The rest is from Asia and Africa. And yet we have 50-year-olds, white males running the company. It doesn't fit anymore. So that the realization that we need more diversity is there. It's just we don't yet know how to.
It is very funny because it's also when you look to startup environments, when you look at nature, when do you get all this cool new stuff? When there's a lot of diversity. What are we trying to do? Teach it. Everything the same.
Yeah.
So we basically take away with the process of free market liberalization, which has a lot of great things in place, but everything's become more and more the same. So you get less innovation and less the real economic growth drivers, like internet, like all these new technologies. The more diverse the world is, the more of these new innovations we get.
Yeah.
That's why I think if as a company you don't support diversity from the beginning, you're facing your own Kodak moment in the end.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley is based on immigration, on diversity. It's 50% of the founders comes from outside the US. The one big issue there is still women. And they're doing everything to change that. But I think diversity is key here. And you can only support it if you start immediately in your own circle. Because I can imagine quota is an important topic. I also agree you probably hire your own people. It's a quantitative measure and not a qualitative. And if you can combine the both, then it will work.
Yeah. I think also we could have, is this on this topic? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still on this topic. I mean, I've heard some things about the emotional connection to women from the men that are in the boards, but I often feel like they feel threatened as well. I mean, because I can exactly say the same things as, for example, you are, and then they don't take me seriously, but they do it when he says the exact same thing, because I'm a woman, and I don't know, maybe think that, yeah, you look cute, but yeah, I don't know what you're saying. I mean, it doesn't make any sense coming from you.
Yeah.
And somehow...
But that's at the root of it, isn't it?
Men seriously,
Yeah.
for some reason, and I think because we are very traditional. I mean, men run the world for years.
Yeah.
Basically, in all those companies, they started it, they built it, and then now women since the 60s are also...
And you're outnumbered, yeah? You're outnumbered as well. So I'm just conscious of time here, because I think this is a very rich topic. But I sense that there is something in quotas, but I think it's also the smart CEOs and leaders see the power of diversity. Yeah, if I can get a really diverse workforce, the right gender, the right age, like you were the 50s. There's a company in England called ASOS, which is the 20s, the place to go for 20s, and they're letting the 20-year-olds loose. So I think there's trying to power you, getting an opportunity for this. And in the meantime, I think we need a role model. We need to think of, wouldn't it be great if it had a big Dutch CEO success? So hopefully there's one in this room, maybe. You can help them. Yeah. So can we?
Booking.com has a female CEO now. I think will do a lot for women in tech and women in.
Yeah.
Actually, Nancy McKinstry, who
Yes.
here, she's actually the best paid CEO of the Netherlands. And she's also female, so
Right.
they make more money.
Okay. Interesting reaction, eh? So can we ask some more questions? Let's move on to a different subject. So opportunity, you ask any question you like, and please don't ask the ordinary ones. What's the question you'd love to ask? Yes.
I had a question about the robot. I mean, that somehow stuck with me. Why the robot and not just use normal people? I mean, I get that the robot is innovative and you can get work with startups, but for me, when I travel to some strange place I've never been before, and I get to the airport, it's usually, I mean, I've been in an airplane for like hours, and I just want to have the feeling that I'm welcome there, and a robot doesn't exactly strike as very welcoming to me, because it's like a screen made better, and there's a voice coming out that doesn't even sound human to me.
It does, but
Yeah, maybe it doesn't.
What's the voice?
Yeah. My point is, why not use actual human beings?
Well, for one thing, this robot speaks 27 languages. You speak English, but the majority of our Asian customers does not. So we have Chinese and Japanese people working for us on board the planes. But as soon as people arrive in Amsterdam, usually our ground staff speaks English, French, German, a little Spanish, but not all of them speak Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. So for specific groups, these robots. And at the same point in time, these are customers that are not used to traveling. They usually travel in groups. They're not very comfortable being on their own in a strange place. And this robot is able to direct them in their own language to where they need to go in that airport.
Good.
So,
Good. What about robots driving your electric cars? Are you up for that?
For sure will come a day that all taxis will be driverless. In fact, then our cars will be taxis, so that's also an opportunity for us.
Okay. Would you ever drive a pilotless plane? Does anybody fly in a pilotless plane?
maybe it's a question for the audience.
Yeah.
Would you be comfortable with a plane without a pilot?
So who would go in a driverless car? A driverless taxi? Who wouldn't do it? Yeah, and who would go in a pilotless plane?
That already exists.
It's already automated.
Yeah, they've got drugs, are they? Yeah, well, that's another thing about Dutch culture, which is great. Okay, so
Autopilot is already
yeah, but
existing.
all the way, but with no humans in the.
The automatic pilot is already existing, so it can land, and so it's already there.
There's still three
Presence.
There's three people usually, in two or three people in a cockpit overseeing all the systems.
A bit nervous about that.
People are usually nervous about not having people in the.
Yeah. Okay, other questions, please. Yes, madam.
What is the best marketing thing you've done in the past year, the past 12 months for each of the
Best marketing?
Well, I can say that the first 6 months of our existence, we put a lot of emphasis on marketing. If you look at the Berlin ecosystem, it's based on marketing. In the beginning, there was SoundCloud and hardly anything else, and it was marketing, positioning yourself. So that's what we learned from them and put the Netherlands on the map via the network we had with the media, from the Financial Times to Forbes. We involved everyone and everything. But you need a good story. What we also did is the Compass ranking of ecosystems. We approached them and said, number one is Silicon Valley, no wonder, of all the technologies there, but it's also not a city. Yeah, so we claimed, can we see Amsterdam as larger Amsterdam, just like Silicon Valley, and involve a 90-mile zone around Amsterdam? So in the end, the deal was 60 miles, and we could involve all the hubs like Delft, etc. So marketing is one, but you need a good story and need to be quite clever to get in there. And I think that was our best marketing story.
Okay, sounds good. Mine would be, we used to write long-form articles for LinkedIn that used to generate a lot of viewers, but we couldn't get the likes up. So basically, Anna and I sort of stepped back and said, how do we build a community of people interested in CEOs, and how do we get in the top 100 influencers in LinkedIn? Because if we get to that, there'll be lots of random value that would come to us globally. And so we contacted LinkedIn, and they were about to launch their mobile app, and we agreed that we would contribute consistently to LinkedIn, short form, which was like a quote from a really good CEO, or one of our secrets, or a short form piece on something we were doing, and occasionally do a long form, like Brexit. We're doing one on Brexit at the moment. So basically, that for us, our viewers are going up 100,000 followers a month. So I think LinkedIn, and plus the other thing is linking the BBC to LinkedIn. So the BBC program we have, we basically wire it up to LinkedIn and back and forth, and start to do video. So video, I think, is the big thing, I think, from the previous presentation. So we're going to do short clips of 1 minute on CEOs. So I think that seems to be the big change.
And for us, the wrong one. Yeah. So for us, we got a lot of positive spin about being the first airline on Facebook Messenger, so that helped. But that was really more customer service and not really marketing. I think for us, what we call cockpit tales, videos that we made of how a flight operates, what pilots do during their day. That was the response on that was enormous. We just put a few GoPros in the cockpit. We recorded what they do, how their briefings go, how they land on difficult runways, how they go up in the clouds, etc. And it really showed us that our product in itself bears so much interest for large groups of people that in itself is a very powerful marketing tool. We reached millions and millions of people with a very, very low budget. So.
So do you think of using your employees as your marketeer? So the employed channels for KLM seems to be huge.
Yeah, we're running a test right now with our what we call social ambassadors. So we have asked, I forget the number, but a few hundred of our colleagues to actively share with their friends and family and their social networks when they think there's something worth sharing of KLM, to actively do that. And we see that the employees like it a lot because then they tend to be proud of working for KLM. And the reach is massive, obviously, because people trust our employees to say the right things about the company. So it's working very well, and we plan to expand that pilot.
A question regarding this as well. I completely agree with that strategy, but sometimes big corporations
Which company do you work for? Who do you work for?
Sorry?
Who do you work for?
Embraer.
Are they a big company?
It's an aircraft line.
So what would your advice be to her?
We're in the same, same industry. So, how does KLM work with that? Do you train? Do you, how do you work?
So the people that are involved in customer contact through our social media channels on a daily basis obviously get trained, but they get trained in the way to interact with our customers, not what to say and what not to say. We have a general policy that states that when our employees talk to the press, they should have, and we consider social media as press because you speak to not just one person but to many people, they should show restraint and think about what they say, but we don't forbid employees to speak to our customers via whatever channel. So we allow them to speak to our customers because we believe that it's one of the strengths of our brands, of our brand, in particular KLM, that our employees are open and approachable. So we don't want them to say, I'm sorry, I cannot speak to you, please go to a spokesperson.
It's got to be the way. Yeah. So can I ask you a question? So in my country, we have this situation at the moment where everybody's going mad about Brexit. Yeah, is Britain, like David Cameron's campaigning for Europe. We've got, Boris Johnson, the guy with the yellow hair, he's like, playing cricket with people, trying to get us out of Europe. I'm really interested as to what you think about Britain in Europe. Do you want us in? Do you not want us in? Do you give a care? So just generally, and also, can I capture it just while we're here in the spirit of all of this? So who would like, and answer me honestly, so I'm going to ask you first, you want Britain to be in Europe and then out, okay? So who would, oh my goodness. So who would like Britain to be in Europe? Okay, who'd like Britain to be out of Europe? Okay, and who doesn't really care? Oh, you want us, that's really nice. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so what do you think to that? Do you want, is it going to be good for Holland to have Britain in Europe and for Europe?
Well, first of all, it affects my family life because I'm married to one, so it's...
Great idea. We're great husbands.
I think, because I worked in the European Commission for a couple of years, I think it's good for the balance of power. Otherwise, it's France, Germany. And I think it's good to have also the transatlantic link and the transatlantic view of the UK. Considering all the, and that's sounding very complex, but the systemic linkages in Europe with the UK, financially, all the people, let's say from Eastern Europe who are working there, it will have huge consequences if this has to change. And of course, we can always manage change, etc. But I'm not sure exactly who will benefit from this.
Yeah, very good. Anything to add?
I think what's interesting is that Europe is a bit as a bank. It's sort of too big to fail, and that's you go on. A lot of wrong stuff happens. Still, you go on. And what we see is that it's really lacking on a vision on Europe. And it might be good if we get some sort of a crisis moment that they really leave, because then we need to get together again, and based on a clear vision, why is there a Europe? Right now, there's people dying in the sea because Europe is basically, there's no vision. Right now, Europe says people that want to join us are a problem. I mean, this is a society that has not really a long-term value. I mean, if you are not able to get people with you, if it doesn't make you happy, it's the same as with an organization. You value your people. If there can work more people at KLM, well, you will be happier. You can create new jobs. Europe, we say, well, there's a problem. So it might help to address the real issues.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in Britain, most CEOs want Britain to stay in. They don't have strong views about it. And the big worry is all the uncertainty, because it would take us 2 years to exit. What would that do? So we've got a chance for one final question, or I can ask a question for the guys. Anyone got a final burning question? All right, let's take two. We'll pick the best one. Yes, sir? So what's your question? And then, yeah, you first.
Okay. It's nice to share your successes, but I'm also very curious about the biggest failures, if you dare.
Okay, perfect. Yes, sir? What was your question?
Yes, my question is basically more about Internet of Things and wearable technology. Just like putting us kind of like in 5 years from now, whether electric taxi, whether it's kind of like KLM, whether in fact it's the old startups. Where do you think that the actual Internet of Things and wearable technology will be tomorrow?
Okay, perfect. Can we do both of those, Steve, just quickly?
Yes.
Okay, so can we do, right, what was your biggest failure, honestly? And not just give us the fake ones. So, what's the biggest mistake you really made? Yes, sir.
When we started, we were really principle, sort of really based on the fundamental idealist of most left-wing political parties. So we had two things with Taxi Electric. We do everything ourselves, and we work only with people that are employed by us. Whereas most other taxi companies, they work a lot together, and all the drivers are entrepreneurs. And actually, we changed it this last year, and it makes everything so much better and also more social. So for us, it's basically being blinded by the dogmas that are there on the social front. This was our biggest mistake.
Okay, thank you. Tjalling?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if it's our biggest mistake because we make quite a few.
No, your personal one. Your personal.
My
one.
personal one. That's a trick.
So we'll give you a second to think about it.
Thanks, please.
What about you?
My biggest one in this job is that I completely underestimated how difficult it is to be a startup. We said from the beginning we're going to be like a startup, so in a new environment, nothing arranged, new team, we know our goals, etc. I think the first 6 months we spent hours on getting printing paper, getting the cleaning lady in, all these things, and you hardly have time to focus on what your goals are. So for me that was a very important experience, and I think I understand startups a lot better now, because everything you have to conquer, it's immense.
Yeah. You got one?
Yeah, I do. It's not like I don't have it. I have a lot, but I just want to find a suitable one. No, I think my biggest mistake when taking this position at least was not taking into account the cultural differences within my team. So back to diversity. I oversee both the French and the Dutch part, and that sometimes I assumed a equal starting point, but they turned out to be really different, which hampered me a lot in succeeding in my plans. So diversity and cultural differences.
Yeah. So mine was I had two. But the funny one is there was one rule I only had one rule in the company, that you couldn't have a relationship with someone in the company. And then I fell in love with somebody in my company. So I had to change the rule, and I had to go in front of all the directors and change the rule. And now we're going to change it back again. Anyway, moving on. Right, so the other one is about Internet things and then disruption. So I think, where do you see the internet going in the future, and maybe broaden that question to disruption opportunities?
Can I start? Yeah. So we of course, there's the obvious things with Internet of Things. If you have a permanent tag on your suitcase, you'll be able to track it everywhere. And when we lose it, then you already know where it is before we do. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But also in terms of customer intimacy and serving our passengers better. Why having to check in for a flight? Why having to pull out your boarding pass at 3 different locations at the airport? If we recognize you via biometrics, if we know that the app you have installed on your phone can make a link to the passport, and then the gate can scan your face and connect all things, you can just enter the plane without being stopped one single time. These are the kind of things that we're working on right now.
Company, we try to basically to embrace everything that does the latter, like making the small one man big again, and we're also basically actively working on a plan to do so in the taxi market, to use this new dynamic to strengthen the taxi driver again, who's really under pressure right now.
Yeah. Sigrid?
To me it's important, if you look at the Internet of Things, it's about 2 things. It's connectivity. Between people, between objects, etc. It's also about big data and information. I think we are facing a sort of risk that it becomes very abstract, that we lose the bigger goal. or that we get all sorts of gadgets, which will probably sell very well, but we really should use the Internet of Things, let's say in the context of smart cities, that it's not only tech-driven, but it's also societal challenges driven. And if we manage to combine that, I'm a huge believer in the Internet of Things.
My dream would be that I'd be sitting somewhere really sunny, and I've got the CR EasyJet here. Sorry, I've got the CR Virgin here, and literally they're like, that Star Wars, when they're all in a hologram and you can talk to them, and I can just sit there with like a gin and tonic and give them advice about how to be a great leader. That would be hopefully how that I could do that. So we've run out of time, unfortunately, but hopefully you found it informative and enjoyable. I just want to thank each of them of the panel. I think they made a great contribution, very open. And so can I just thank Ruud, Tjalling and Sigrid, please.